You're listening to Politics Within Reason, the official podcast of the Party of Reason and Progress. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to our first podcast. This is the official podcast of the Party of Reason and Progress. And in this podcast, we wanted to kind of address some of the lingering questions that we see in our Facebook communities and online. Today with me, one of the original community members at PORP. We hear a lot of questions on social media, Facebook and Twitter, if the Party of Reason and Progress is a real party. Samuel, can you tell me a little bit about how you joined PORP?
Yeah, I actually knew David McAfee from outside of the party, and he was the founding force behind PORP, the Party of Reason and Progress. And, he talked to me about a week after the 2016 election. PORP is pretty much a reaction to the characteristics of the 2016 election, especially the lack of reason and the lack of respect for facts that we saw during that process.
I think we continue to see that continue on in today's administration as well, in the political environment that we're all living in. I think that brings a lot of more purpose to the party, right?
Oh, it definitely does. It gives us our driving force. And, the reason behind this organization is to promote truth and reason within politics. And that is our founding principle.
Right. So some of the things that we've talked about online in the Facebook communities, our official positions. And I know on our website, we have some of those underneath our platform link. But some of those are around, climate change, nuclear power, vaccines, GMO. And it's quite a list that I know that our teams have been working on. But, in politics, what we typically see, I think, is that politicians are trying to find evidence to support their view.
Right. They'll start with a conclusion and then they'll find evidence to support it. And that's one of the primary problems with today's politics, because when you operate with that kind of logical framework, what you'll do is you'll find facts to support your own position. And eventually those facts that underlie your position will diverge so dramatically that there is no common ground that can be made, and you cannot compromise with the other party. You can't even talk to the other party's base. And that is not a healthy way to run politics in the United States or in any country around the world.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem. And I think that, with PORP and the community, as we continue to grow and evolve and become more sophisticated and defined, we'll have other future call to actions where we can actually help push PORP's purpose forward. And that's kind of what we wanted to talk about a little bit today, too, is the different channels that we have in social media. I know, Sam, you work on the public-facing Facebook page. You also work in the private Facebook community page. I'm in there as well. And I think early on, since we're still kind of organizing, PORP has kind of become almost like a IFLS of politics, right? A lot of the members in the community, maybe even you listening here today, are a little bit confused on what communities are there for. And Mike, you're here today with us as well, Michael Ham.
Yep.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about how you envision what our social media is today and what we're looking to do with those social media channels moving forward.
Right. So what really attracted me to PORP was the idea that maybe we could build up some reason caucuses in Congress, right, and the federal level and state levels. And it's not that we'll elect somebody everywhere, but if we come at this with the idea that we're nonpartisan and we're willing to support candidates running in any kind of race who are really committed to scientific principles and using reason in their legislative approaches, I think we can have a big impact on politics in the United States, right? Everything right now is cleaved along these lines, and everything is just so partisan right now that if you can make a bipartisan group that is willing to talk to both sides, that group can have an outsized impact. And that's what I see PORP having the ability to do.
And obviously we aren't there yet. But, one question that I often get from the membership is, are we a political party? Are we going to become a political party? And, that's one thing that I did want to talk about. We want to avoid the trap that the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, the Reform Party, every other third party in the history of the United States has fallen into, where you essentially act as spoiler candidates. And, our primary goal is not to gain power for ourselves, but rather to effect change. So PORP is not and probably will never be an actual political party. Rather, we are a political advocacy organization. And what that means is that we're going to be advocating on issues, and we're going to be advocating for candidates when we can. We will work across the aisle and beyond the aisle to find reasonable people to put into government.
Because that was good. That was going to be my next question. And Mike, I know you had something to say here too, but I mean, how is it more effective for us not to be a party, right? It's clear to us because we live and work in PORP's world every day, but to our listeners, why is PORP not saying we want to be an internet-based, next generation Green Party or Tea Party that's actually going to be more effective? I guess the Tea Party is not really a party. I guess maybe that's a good analogy, Mike, and maybe you can talk a little bit more about why is that strategic?
Right. So think about it, right? When was the last time that you know of where a third party really got anybody elected with any large numbers, right? There's a few that have happened here or there. The last time there was really an effective use of third-party pressure was the Tea Party, right? So the Tea Party found the way to influence U.S. politics, and that was by going into the primaries and really pushing issues that they felt really strongly about, right? And what that ended up doing was making a few new candidates viable, but more importantly, what it did was it made all the other candidates shift their positions to match the Tea Parties. Now, the Tea Party was only directed at a single party, whereas PORP can really direct its efforts anywhere.
Yeah, that's correct. And what we want to do as an organization is really be an opposing influence to the Tea Party, where the Tea Party is very much an emotionally driven, ideologically focused organization that's focused on pushing American politics, especially the Republican Party, to the right, and will use any tactics, including untruths, in order to make that happen. PORP has no official position on the issues of small government versus large government, federal control, state control of natural resources, or issues like that. We want to see reasonable people get elected into government. Now, myself, Brett, and Mike, I think I can speak for all of us here when I say that we're falling on the liberal end of the spectrum. And this podcast is probably going to tend in that direction. But please, keep in mind that the organization as a whole has people all the way from the libertarian camp to the communist camp and everywhere in between. And we'll welcome any sort of views to that effect. So the difference between us and the Tea Party is that we want to use some of the same tactics that they used to effectively make change within Congress, but we want to do it in a more responsible direction.
In this election, there are so many people, potentially, we'll quote our administration, millions and millions of people that have come out of the woodwork where this may be their first time really getting in tune with the political process, with what's going on in our governments and our policies. I can tell you my interest in politics has skyrocketed in the past, year. And I think that there's a lot of people that are exposed to a lot of things. They want to be heard. They want to be involved, but they're not sure. And what's really, I think, the difference in PORP is that we are welcoming of all of those people, whether you're just starting, whether you have different views. Our purpose is to win you over to the side of reason and, empirical sounding decision making in government. Listeners of all levels, social media, we hope that you stay with us through the process. Hey, Mike, how do we get people to contact us and be part of the podcast?
Let's see here. We'll post it online, but the number is 1-202-681-2274. You'll get a message asking you to leave a message. And so please do. We'll look at all of them.
Yeah, we want to hear your thoughts about what we should talk about, what things you think PORP should be focusing on. The podcast is really going to be the way that PORP communicates to its community about things that we're working on, our progress, and things that'll be coming soon. Hey Nation, we want to hear from you, our listeners. So go ahead and reach out to us on Facebook or give us a call at 202-681-2274. We might even play you on the show. Politics Within Reason is a project of the Party of Reason in Progress, a registered 527 political organization. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes or whatever you use to listen to your podcasts. Thanks for your support, and until next week, this is Politics Within Reason.